I mean, if you look at the Age of Empires YouTube channels and stuff, they go into really incredible detail on these things, and they figure out all my dark secrets about why things are the way they are.
Spirit of the law, and he brings out those Excel sheets and everything.
Spirit of the law is merciless. You know, I was watching one of the things recently where he talked about the changes in the, I think the British and I had to go in there and make confessions. You know, where he said, it seems that originally the Longbows had a minimum range, and they didn't later on. And so I told him why in the comments. I said, okay, here's the deal: the Longbow had a minimum range to kind of nerf them a little bit, and then we had a battle, and in the battle, there was a kind of not a huge army of Longbows, because it wouldn't have happened with that, but like a middle to small number of Longbows, and they were attacked by some unit that was able to get in among them and target them individually. And of course, so the Longbows were spending all the time backing up to try to get the minimum range.
Right.
And not shooting. And they just got massacred.
It's like a Scorpion, but like an infantry. I mean, a Scorpion, but an archer drawback, right? Scorpions have minimum range?
I don't remember.
Regardless, yeah, it's okay.
I think they do. So they're being well. I think that skirmishers have minimum range too.
I see skirmishers, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so they're being killed. And so two of the other designers, not the balanced designers, just like other designers, were on the losing end. And so they basically went on a strike, and they absolutely refused to play British anymore until we'd fixed that terrible flaw. So they essentially blackmailed me and the sheriff. So we went back in and we took out the minimum range, and we stuck in some stealth nerfs into the Longbowmen to try to make up for it. I think we upped their wood cost by 5. And we might have slowed down their movement. I forget what we did exactly.
Yeah.
But we tried to make up for it. But that's what. But literally, it wasn't because of balance that they didn't have minimum range. It was because these guys were really whiny. So because the thing is, it's not all done in a vacuum. I have to work in this company. There's got to be politics.
Yeah, right. There's favoritism towards certain civs and play styles and all kinds of stuff, right?
Exactly. And we'd have guys say, "I will never play the Grenadiers because they're terrible."
Right.
But we knew the Grenadiers were. Well, this time we were able to get around it.
Hi, apologies for the interruption, but I promise it's a good one. If you're enjoying today's episode with Sandy and you're an RTS fan, there's a good chance you might enjoy some of these other episodes that I did. Episode 49 and 51 is with Lewis Castle, who is actually the creator of the first RTS game ever made, Dune, and then he went on to work with the Command and Conquer series. He also worked with Spielberg on a game called Boom Block. So a really awesome episode. I hope you check it out. Episode 35 and 41 is with Ed Del Castillo, who worked on Red Alert 1 and Battle Realms, which are both very popular RTS games. If you're feeling a bit more adventurous, episode 62 is with Steve Murphy. He is the DEA agent that was in Colombia when Pablo Escobar was captured. The show Narcos is based on his life. And one last one, I promise, episode 52 is a personal favorite of mine. It's with Leonard Skinner, who is a man that sold everything and lives on a boat. A really interesting and insightful conversation, so links to everything down below.
He said, the Grenadiers are bad, I'll never use them again. So I said, okay, we'll fix it. So me and Sheriff went back to our office, and we had Diet Cokes and talked about other things. Then we came out and said, okay, it's fixed. And then they were great, and then he was fine.
And the placebo effect, I guess, right?
The problem is we couldn't do that with the Longbows, because they could tell if they had a minimum range or not.
Right, it's too obvious, right?
We couldn't tell what changes we made to the Grenadiers. I mean, because we didn't make any, but we could have done modifications. We could have done things that would be harder to notice.
What do you think about having to balance this game today with so many new civs? It seems like it becomes almost an impossible task.
Well, to be fair, assuming that the game that they care enough, they can certainly add a huge number of guys onto it. They can just pile on manpower to test it. And if they have a good testing system, which I assume they must have a decent one, then they should be able to do it. I mean, it was really we just had our team of player. We could have 8-player games going at the same time, or actually we could have 2 8-player games going at the same time, and then me and the sheriff watching them, or sometimes playing if there wasn't enough people. And we played it pretty intensely and took a long time, but I assume they have 50 guys doing it, and maybe that will make up for Anything? I'm not. Are the new civs balanced? What's the word?
I mean, they have I think they're relatively balanced in terms of like win percentages on ladder. I mean, they have an infinite amount of analytics to go over, so it's just a matter of minor tweaks and then waiting it out, right? It's not overdoing it with anything. So I think
it's also true.
Yeah.
It's also true that if you make like numerical changes, like your changes are numbers in their stats instead of like big things, then it's easier to balance because you can just say, well, if I give the guy twice as many hit points, then he becomes 4 times as good in the battle. That's just how it works.
Right, just simple math.
That's how it works, right? But if you're doing something like when I said the Huns didn't have to have houses, that's harder to balance.
That's a huge fundamental change in the play style.
A huge fundamental change,
right?
And so it takes a lot. And I don't. As far as I can tell, they haven't done very many of those huge fundamental changes. And, that's probably why.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't want to mess up a good thing. Is there anything? I guess that brings me back.
They may not have a programming staff who they may just be using the database to make their changes. They may not have a programming staff who's allowed to go in there and mess with the engine because they might introduce bugs.